Welcome to GLJ Shorts.
In this episode, Linnea Wegerstad is presenting her article, Sex Must Be Voluntary, Sexual Communication and the New Definition of Rape in Sweden. It appeared in the special issue, Sexual Violence and Criminal Justice in the 21st Century in August 2021. In a nutshell, what is your article about?
So my article is about the Swedish rape law reform that took place in 2018, and which means that law now defines rape based on a criterion of non-voluntary participation. So that is basically a yes, only yes means yes model rather than a no means no model. And that has been introduced in Sweden. And I have analyzed this law reform, and my conclusion is that rape is now represented or described as a matter of choice and communication in sexual situations. And first of all, I stress that this new rape law is a bit difficult to apply, I would say, that, and it suffers from a lack of predictability. Second, I think that this new way of describing rape is in contrast with earlier understandings or feminist understandings of rape as a matter of gender-related social hierarchies. In short, rape as a matter of violence and power. And in this article, I also draw on empirical studies on how people communicate in sexual situations, which I see is a sort of emerging problem in research to address this issue of how people communicate. And what these studies show is that it's not so easy to communicate. It's a rather messy. It can be difficult to understand other persons, but also to express oneself in these situations. So that is what my article is about, very short.
What's at stake and why now?
So what was at stake when I wrote this article was this message that the new rape law came with, and that was that sex must be voluntary. And that is a very sort of self-evident message, right? Of course, sex should be voluntary, but I was concerned with how that should be framed in a legal setting, and how then define what is a crime, what is sexual violence. I was also a bit concerned with how the reform process in Sweden was very focused on the black letter law, and did not really take into account any empirical studies on how people communicate in sexual situations, or studies on sort of how people experience rape, or different ways of thinking about rape. So, and well, I think a final point is that I was a bit concerned with that in the last 20 years or so in Sweden, sexual violence has been addressed largely as a criminal justice problem or a criminal law problem, where this new consent-based rape law was seen as the solution to this problem, which I was a bit concerned with.
Where do we go from here?
Well, I have so many ideas on where to go from here, and I think there are so many interesting topics and issues that need to be further researched. But I think that one aspect is how this new law, this new way of defining rape is applied, and not only in courts and in the criminal justice system, but rather in what are the effects of this law when it comes to how young people understand understand sexuality and understand sexual violence. And I also think we need to study more closely the role of criminal law in sexual education, and also in a wider sense, the role of criminal law in sort of governing sexual relations. So there are many projects I look forward to read.
A cause for hope. What are the most promising developments in society at the moment?
That's such a difficult question. I think perhaps the most promising thing, and what I've learned from reading empirical studies on sexual communication, is that, I don't know, I think that young people seem to be so aware of the importance of consent. They seem to have a very sort of promising perspective on sexuality. So I think that's one thing I would say.